Hi guys, welcome in if you're a first-time viewer. Welcome back if you're a returning viewer. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscribes, and to those of you who have booked a personal reading with me. Please keep in mind that these are general messages, so do not take them personally. Take the messages that resonate and leave the rest behind. If you would like to book a personal reading with me, you can find the information in the description box below. So, this is a new moon reading, right? The new moon is going into Taurus, right? This is the end of eclipse season. So we're coming out of a period of transformative energy, and we're stepping into a frequency that is more even, right? It's a more stable territory, right? So the shift in energy is not going to be massive, right? It is going to happen at a slow and steady pace, right? It's going to be very subtle, but it is going to offer up opportunities that you may not have had access to before, right? You'll start to feel a sense of progression, and you'll start to see new avenues for possibilities, right? This is also a time where there are no other planets in retrograde, right? So again, this is an energy that is entering a flow state, right? It will inspire you to take action that will help you to progress and move forward, right? New moons are portals to new beginnings, right? It's the frequency of a new beginning, a new start, a new passion, new ideas, right? It is the beginning, the start, right? So as you enter into this new phase, Taurus is a slow and steady frequency, right? So again, this is going to provide you the opportunity to focus on things that are going to nourish and support you for the long term, right? It's going to inspire you to lay down roots and to think about how you can create stability in the foreseeable future, right? You may find yourself thinking about long-term plans or how you want to fill your cup moving forward, right? Because again, Taurus is the sign of nourishment and longevity, right? So it's going to encourage you to focus on deepening your roots and making the most of where you are currently, right? But also encouraging you to water the grass where you are, and understanding that what you nurture and what you give attention to is what will bloom, right? So under this Taurus energy, right, focus more on slowing down, right, getting organized, giving your attention to the things that you desire as opposed to the things that you don't, right? Because the more energy that you give to the things that are weighing you down, the more weighted down you will feel, right? So again, this new moon wants you as much as possible to focus your attention on the outcome rather than the problems, right? Be mindful about how you speak to yourself in this time, right? How you speak about the events and how you talk about others, right? Try to frame your perspective to what you want to see, feel, and experience as opposed to what you don't, right? Be gentle with yourself and speak kindly to yourself and others, because this is how you start to nourish your cups, right? Let me see what else. Venus. Okay, so Venus is the planet of love, right? We spoke about in the last reading how Venus is coming out of retrograde, right? So again, that energy is coming out of a place of restriction where it's entering a phase that is more free-flowing, right? It speaks to your love, relationships, but it also speaks to your money, right? So, again, Taurus is earth energy, right? Which also speaks to your practical matters. So under this new moon, be mindful about certain habits that are no longer sustainable as it comes to your career choices, as it comes to your financial habits, financial matters, things of that sort, right? So let's pull some cards. What message do you have for the collective at this time? Help you to articulate a clear and concise message in order for it to be received in the way that you want it to best be received. Help me to see what it is that I need to see to get the message across as clear as possible. and helping to deliver any messages that you deem worthy in order to serve your highest good, for the highest good of humanity with harm to none. What messages do you have for the collective at this time as it relates to the new moon in Taurus? What messages do you have for the collective at this time as it relates to the new moon in Taurus? I am feeling a very like grounded energy, right? Where it's almost as if like things are coming to a place of settlement, right? Because a second ago I did feel a little bit anxious. I did feel a little bit eager, but now it's like entering a place of like settlement, right? So I don't completely feel, but it's almost like, again, in the middle of that transition phase where, again, like we're coming out of eclipse season. All of those planets that were retrograde are back stationary. So everything is moving forward. Everything is progressing. Everything is going back to its natural state of flow, right? Where there's less resistance, right? Which also provides more clarity, right? It also, because there was that resistance, it also provided you a new sense of perspective, right? That opposing energy gave you a new way of looking at things, a new way of feeling things, a new way of sensing things, a new way of being or existing within certain matters, right? So as things are going back to their natural state, you're now re-entering that space of like enlightenment, right? Where you have the inspiration, you have the motivation, or you have like the practical resources, the energy, the frequency, right? The new ideas. You have all of the tools you need to kind of rebuild what it is that you're trying to create, right? In a more efficient manner, right? In a more stable manner, in a more secure manner, right? That better fits your vision as opposed to kind of just going with the flow, if that makes sense, right? Empowered, right? Again, so being in that frequency, I hope it's not, is the camera backwards? I had to move the camera because literally everything is on the charger, right? I've got like 20 different devices going on here at one time and they're all on the charger. So I had to move my station around so that like I had enough plugs for everything. And so you may be backwards. Let me figure out how to move some things around. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Okay. I hope this is a little bit better. So yes. We have the lacking, we have expressive, and we have empowered. Right, with receptive. So again, this is you coming into that space of knowing. This is you coming into that space of trust and security in what it is that you're building. Right, you're no longer again centered around this place of lack. Right, you're no longer centered around doing things from this place of chasing. Right, it's more so stepping into the energy of attracting, right? Where things come at a more even flow state, right? Where things come at a more even pace, right? Things kind of just flow into your life. It's almost like always being at the right place at the right time, right? You don't necessarily have to kind of fight for opportunities, whereas opportunities just start to meet you where you are, right? You also have a better sense of trust in what it is that you're creating, right? You have a stronger sense in your ability to create as well, right? Where you are now more aware in the strength and power in which you have to create as it relates to the things that you desire, right? Okay, so clarify, empowered. Did I shuffle these? Sorry, I got distracted for a second. And as I started this reading, like it was sunny a second ago, but as I started the reading, it started to rain. So that is definitely giving me the sense of like things are cleansing out, right? You're entering to a state of like purity, right? Again, that's that new beginning phase, right? Where again, we also just had the spring equinox, which also speaks to new beginnings, right? So again, like it's more so about like clearing out old things, right? Things are really starting to come to a place of fruition where you are more focused on watering the things of your desires as opposed to holding on to things that make you feel comfortable and secure from your past, right? Clarify, empowered. The Hermit. Again, being more aware about the power that you have to create, right? Being more or having more courage and trust within yourself, within your own ability to create, right? Having more trust and within your own ability to kind of see things for what they are, right? To follow your intuition, right? To follow that guidance as, right? Like following your inner compass, right? Because if like, does this not look like a compass, right? On this Empower card that looks like a compass, right? So again, having more faith in not always having to listen to outside opinions, right? It's good to kind of have that perspective, but ultimately knowing that your inner compass will always lead you to where it is that you are truly being guided, right? That your inner compass will put you on the path towards the mission in which you are supposed to serve, right? So again, like not always having to seek advice or perspective from outside sources, because you know that inner reflection will again lead you on the path to your purpose. Give me one more card for Empowered. The Eight of Wands, right? That's that communication. This is just communication, right? So knowing that, like, as long as you remain connected to yourself, as long as you remain connected to God, as long as you remain connected to Source, the universe, right? However you identify, right? But like, as long as you stay connected to the root of who you are, to your identity, right? In following your intuition, right? As long as you stay in communication with God, right? You'll never be led astray, right? Because keeping that connection close, keeping that connection strengthened, well, again, it will only increase in power over time, right? That power is not something that diminishes. It's something that increases over time, right? The closer you get to it, right? The more power you receive. But the more that you distance yourself from it, the more you are likely to be misdirected or misled, right? So definitely, again, remaining connected to self as it relates to what it is that you're creating, what it is that you're manifesting, what it is that is your purpose, or what is your mission that is meant to being fulfilled in this lifetime, right? Staying close to God will keep you on that path, right? Even if it's something that you may not feel is tangible in that moment, know that you'll be led on the path to making that thing tangible, as long as you stay connected to self and connected to Source, to God, right? Because again, like this is giving like not all those who wander are lost, right? So again, that is a very true statement, right? That's how you gain experience in life, by exploring, right? That's how you are able to tell, that's how you achieve depth in life, right? That's how you expand your mind, expand your perspective, expand your wisdom, right? Expand your knowledge, just expand your life in general by exploring, by seeking those adventures, right? By following the road less traveled, right? That's how you discover new things, right? But again, that also is keeping you closer to God, right? Because again, we have those 5D connections. You have your divine feminine, divine masculine. You have your inner child, your higher self, and your shadow self, right? And the inner child is the one that is connected most to God, because it is the frequency that is most connected to creation, right? And so again, staying connected to that childlike energy, right? Knowing that exploration is a part of that childlike energy. It gives you the inspiration to create, right? It gives you the motivation to create, right? It gives you new ways to create, and it presents new opportunities towards you that may not have been available to you in the past had you remained in your state of comfortability, right? I hope that makes sense the way that it came through. Clarify lacking. Because the Eight of Wands also speaks to like travel. It also speaks to things that come from a distance, right? So again, that is knowledge. Oh, the Ten of Pentacles and the Empress. And this is that creation energy, right? Because the Empress is the creator. She is the one who creates life, right? She presents life to the world, right? The Ten of Pentacles, which is your legacy, right? It speaks to your bloodline. It speaks to the things that come from you, right? And so maybe you were trying to manifest from a place of lack because you were unwilling to explore new places that would inspire you to create, right? Maybe you were afraid to, the Five of Cups, right? With the Judgment and Discernment underneath. So maybe you were in a place where you were hesitant to kind of tap into your emotions or kind of lead with your emotions, right? You were hesitant to take or receive information from your heart space because in the past it may have left you in a place of lack because you didn't completely use your discernment when it comes to things that you were giving to, right? Maybe you experienced things in your past, or maybe it was something that was related to your home foundation, right? Where it felt as if you were not receiving every part of the emotional spectrum that would help you to feel fulfilled in that area, right? Maybe it was something that started in the root of your foundation, right? That kind of put you in this place of misunderstanding what it means to truly give emotionally, what it means to truly be fulfilled emotionally, right? What it means to offer emotion and the value that that brings to a situation, right? Because you have the Judgment here. That's like discernment. That's your purpose. That's your mission, right? So maybe you were in a place in the past where you had no real idea or perspective about the value that emotions brought to your manifestation, right? Because again, you had no true understanding about what that looked like, right? And so again, you had no understanding about how that affected the things in which you were creating, how that affected the things in which you were manifesting, right? How the things from your past also affected your future. Because again, it was something that you had no knowledge of. It was something that you kind of had to gain perspective on. Clarify this Empress. What does this Empress bring into life? The Eight of Swords. Give me one more card. Ooh. Maybe you didn't have, how can I put this into words? It's almost as if like this Empress energy kind of provided perspective on how overthinking something was putting you in this place of anxiety, was putting you in this place of depression, right? It was putting you in this place of self-doubt or like imposter syndrome, right? It was keeping you imprisoned to this one specific perspective, right? Where this Empress energy, it doesn't feel like you. It feels almost like an outside energy that provided this perspective about how you were keeping yourself stuck in a certain idea, in a certain way of thinking, right? And it's almost like, because the Eight of Swords is like self-imprisonment, right? So again, it's like being stuck in your ways, being stuck in your mind, right? I have this perspective. This is what I have learned so far. And this is what I know. So this is what I'm taking with me. As opposed to like seeing like, oh, I realized that this is happening, or I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling like this sense of imposter syndrome, or I'm feeling like I'm having to chase things all the time, but I'm also not gaining anything at the same time because of this fixed mindset, right? Because I have this one track mind about how to create, about how to give, about how to receive, or about how to bring things to life, or about how to manifest certain things, right? Again, it's that self-doubt, the Ten of Cups, that like, is it really possible? The Magician, right? This is imposter syndrome. Like, and this energy is like, it almost feels as like this is what came out in that period of self-reflection when the planets were in retrograde, right? When this is like past energy, right? So again, tarot provides you multiple perspectives. It gives you past, present, and future. You have to figure out which situation applies to you personally, because again, these are general messages. This is not a personal reading. So if you would like to know how this resonates for you personally, right, definitely you know where to reach me. But again, like, this more feels like retrograde energy, whereas like this is something that you kind of realize in that space of self-reflection, right? Whereas now that things are kind of moving forward, right? Now that things are coming out of a place of restriction, now you're seeing things from a new perspective, right? Now you're seeing how you were preventing yourself from how you were the one who were keeping your manifestations from coming to life, right? Because the manifestation is here. You have the Ten of Pentacles, you have the Empress, you have the Ace of Swords, the Ten of Cups, and the Magician, right? And you have expressive and empowered, right? Again, so you have the ability, right? With the butterfly, you have the ability to transmute energy. You have the ability to bring things to life, right? You have the ability and the power to create, right? You have all of the necessary tools and the resources, the Two of Cups, to bring yourself into union with the things in which you truly desire, right? The Two of Cups speaks to like soulmate energy. So again, we saw the Judgment card, right, at the bottom of the deck a second ago. So again, can be related to love, but it can also be related to just things that are related to like your mission and your purpose and your passion and your pathway of life, right? You have the tools, you have the resources, everything that you need, but it was your mindset, it was your perspective, it was your fixed vision, right, that was keeping you from allowing those things to flourish, right? And so again, now that we're coming out of that space of restriction, definitely be mindful about allowing things to flow and not creating resistance in places that are trying to exist in their natural state, right? Clarify, expressive, the Warrior of Pentacles, and the Ace of Wands, right? Allow your passions to kind of thrive with the Queen of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. The Queen of Pentacles is a representative of fertility, right? Things are naturally created in abundance for the Queen of Pentacles, right? She doesn't necessarily have to work very hard, right? One egg produces 1,000,000 babies, right? And so that's kind of like what the Queen of Pentacles represents, right? Somebody who, again, has the ability to exist in abundance, exist in wealth, but also exist in this space of peace and relaxation, right? Because bringing things to life is such a sacred space, right? So also knowing how to nourish yourself in that sacred space of creation, right? Because again, if you are trying to create something, but you're not taking care of the very thing that is creating it, what you're creating won't be healthy, right? In order for the creation itself to be healthy, you have to make sure that the creator is healthy, right? And so again, not only speaking wealth, not only envisioning wealth, not only following the guidance of wealth, but also putting in action towards maintaining the health of the wealth, right? I hope that makes sense how it came through. So let's pull 4 cards, right? Because again, this is also inspired action to create more, right? This also provides you information on how to create more. It provides motivation, right? It almost is like once the flame is lit, it becomes an eternal flame, right? But let's pull 4 cards to close this message out. One card for what we can learn as the major lessons surrounding this message. One card for the opportunities we can create surrounding this message. One card for what we can meditate on as the focus of this message. And one card for the new cycles and habits we can innovate to contribute to our growth and expansion surrounding this message. This is a very beautiful message. It definitely just speaks to, again, it basically is just giving you information on how to move forward with the information that you have received in that space of self-reflection, right? It is providing you insight and enlightenment on how you yourself may have been creating restrictions in the very manifestations that is trying to come in for you, right? So again, like, what are you going to do with that new information? How are you going to exist in that flow state? What is it that you're going to nourish and take care of as it relates to your resources and what it is that you are manifesting, right? How are you going to maintain the health of you, the creator, so that the very thing that you're creating is as healthy as possible, right? It has the ability to kind of reach its fullest potential, right? Because again, the creation itself is not going to be healthy if the creator, the very thing that is creating it, is not healthy, right? You can't create healthy, fibrous fruit that will provide you a source of life if the soil itself is not healthy, right? If the soil itself is not pure or clean, right? Or the water, right? You have to make sure that there is an equal balance of the elements in order to create the healthiest manifestation. One card for what we can learn as the major lessons surrounding this message. Celestial alignment, giving and receiving, literally the very thing that I just said. Putting effort, putting nourishment, putting attention, right? And nurturing the very thing in which you're trying to create so that it has the ability to manifest to its fullest potential, right? Because if you're not nurturing your plants, if you're not watering, right, your plants in your garden, if you're not providing it the accurate amount of sunlight, attention, effort, right, all of those things, then it is not going to produce healthy fruit, right? So again, you have to make sure that you are in alignment, right? If your mind, body, soul, spirit, and actions are not in aligned, then something is going to be off in the creation, right? You can't just envision it. You can't just speak it. You can't just feel it in your intuition. You also have to be in alignment with the actions you take towards those things, right? All of your chakras have to be balanced. Maybe I'll do some chakra readings. It's been a minute since I've done that. So maybe I'll do some chakra readings next to see what is causing blockages in those areas that are preventing us from progressing forward, right? One card for the opportunities we can create surrounding this message. Intuition, that's that hermit energy with pleasure, right? And see, she's got the baby. She's got the creation, right? So again, this may not be a physical child for some of you, right? Again, this can be an idea. This can be a business. This can be a connection, right, of any kind, right? Not just romantic. This is a general reading, so take it how it resonates. This can be, again, anything, right? A creation, something that you're giving life to, right? Finding out and learning what will help that to flourish in its healthiest state, right? So you have to learn the very thing that you're creating as a completely different entity, right? Even though it is a part of you, even though it comes from you, even though that is something that you have manifested, something that you have created, you also have to learn it as its own separate identity, right? You have to acknowledge it as its own separate identity. So again, strawberries don't grow the same way grapes grow, right? You have to acknowledge those things as two separate identities, right? They're both fruits, but they both require different environments in order to grow, right? Strawberries grow close to the ground, whereas grapes grow from a vine, from a tree, right? They grow from very different environments. So you have to learn how to nurture and care from them both in very different ways so that they both thrive in their own environments in the most healthiest way possible to their fullest potential, right? One card for what we can meditate on as the focus of this message. Giving and receiving came right back out in good juju, right? Manifesting on the health, meditating on, not manifesting, well, I guess you may be focusing on the health of something that you're manifesting, right? But also focusing on meditating on Again, the very thing that I just said, the cards are just clarifying. I'm not going to repeat myself. These are literally just clarifying the very thing that I just said, right? One new card for the cycles and habits. We can innovate, speak up, and shine. Look at all this green, right? So again, not just speaking it, not just envisioning it, right? But also following through with your actions, right? Because if your actions do not match your vision, if your actions do not match the very thing that you're speaking, if your actions do not match the guidance in which your inner compass is telling you to go, then you're creating a misalignment, right? Which is creating resistance in the thing that you're trying to give life to, right? So again, allow things to grow in their natural state, right? Don't try to create resistance in the progress in how something grows, right? But that is the message that I have for you guys. I hope that it resonates. I know that if you made it to the end of this video, you have found something in it that is worthy and valuable to you. And as I close this message out, the rain has stopped and the sun has come out, right? If that is not confirmation, then I don't know what is, right? If you feel like you need more confirmation regarding how this reading relates to you personally, feel free to contact me. You know how to reach me. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Bye.